and I realized I didn't mind that. I was still working hard on my own path. Classes were going well. The bookstore had become like a second home, and I'd even started getting the hang of budgeting and planning for the future. But in the background of all of this, something else was happening, too. Caroline started showing up in little ways. She would text me occasionally, usually about random things. Books I liked, articles we'd once argued about, or even her new journey in applying for colleges again. She didn't ask for advice, but there was something in the tone of her messages that made me believe she was slowly finding her own way. Then, one Saturday, she surprised me. I was sitting at the bookstore on my lunch break, scrolling through some study notes when I heard the bell above the door ring. I looked up to see Caroline standing there, looking awkward and out of place. For a second, I almost didn't recognize her. She wasn't the polished version of herself I used to know. There were no designer clothes, no glossy hair. She was in a hoodie and jeans, her face bare, and there was a quiet determination in the way she stood. I raised an eyebrow. "What are you doing here?" She gave me a sheepish smile. "I wanted to apologize. Again. In person. I know it doesn't change anything, but I feel like I owe you that." I stood up, still a little surprised. "You're not going to try to manipulate me, are you?" She shook her head quickly, her eyes wide. "No, I swear. I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I mess up. A lot. But I've been working on myself, trying to fix what I can. I know I can't fix everything, but I want to start with this." There was an openness in her voice that was new. I almost couldn't recognize it, but I knew what it meant. It meant she was changing. It meant that, for once, she wasn't hiding behind a lie or pretending everything was fine. She was acknowledging what she'd done, and it wasn't for me to decide if that was enough. It was for her. "You don't have to keep apologizing," I said after a pause. "It's not like I'm holding on to the past anymore. I just want you to keep working on it, on yourself." She nodded, visibly relieved. "I'm trying. I really am." We stood there for a moment, the silence comfortable in a way that I hadn't expected. Then she added, "I'm not asking you to be my friend again, but maybe we could at least not be enemies." I thought about it. In some ways, we were so different now. The old dynamic between us had been destroyed the moment she lied. But in this moment, standing there like two people who were trying to figure things out, I could almost see a new kind of connection. One that didn't revolve around the past. "I think that's a good place to start," I finally said. And just like that, we took a small, cautious step forward. No fanfare, no dramatic moment. Just two people learning to be honest with each other. For the first time in years. Weeks passed, and though Caroline and I didn't exactly become best friends overnight, something shifted in the way we interacted. She texted more often, not just to apologize, but to check in, to share the things she was struggling with, to ask for advice. It was strange, but in a good way. For the first time, she wasn't hiding behind some perfect image of herself. She was real, and that made her more human to me. But even as Caroline slowly seemed to find her footing, my mom and I were still navigating our own slow rebuild. She'd started attending therapy, something she'd always been resistant to before. She told me that she realized she'd been more focused on the idea of what family was supposed to look like rather than actually being the kind of parent I needed. It was hard for me to hear at first, but I appreciated her honesty. We had dinner one night, and it wasn't perfect. We were still feeling things out, still trying to figure out where the boundaries were. But I could see the effort, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was carrying all the weight of our relationship alone. Maybe we weren't the family we used to be, but we were a family trying to be better. And then one day I got an email. It was from my mom. She had forwarded it to me without a subject line, and my heart skipped a beat when I saw the sender's name. It was an offer from a prestigious university I had applied to. The acceptance letter was attached. I stared at it for a while. A full scholarship. The kind of opportunity that had always felt like a distant dream, something for other people. But here it was, sitting in front of me, waiting. I had worked so hard for this. Every late night, every sacrifice, every moment I'd spent proving to myself that I was worth more than the lie my sister had spread. This was the culmination of everything I'd fought for. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, or both. But in that moment, I realized something else. This wasn't just about the scholarship. It was about me, the real me finally stepping into my future. I wasn't defined by my past anymore. I wasn't the girl who had been kicked out of her house. I wasn't the girl whose own family had turned their backs on her. I was someone with dreams. Someone who had earned a future. I called my mom right away. "You forwarded the email," I said, my voice shaking. "Does this mean?" She interrupted me with a laugh. "It means you've earned it. I'm so proud of you." I swallowed hard, not knowing how to respond. The words felt foreign, like I hadn't heard them in so long. But there they were, "I'm proud of you," and they meant more than any scholarship or accolade ever could. It wasn't perfect. The road to get here had been long and filled with pain, but I realized that this moment, it was the start of something new. I could choose who I was. I could choose where I went from here. That night, I made a decision. I called Caroline and told her the good news. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was just to share a victory with someone who had once been the source of my hurt. But I did. And she was happy for me, genuinely so. "You earned it," she said, and I could hear the sincerity in her voice. "I hope this is just the beginning for you." And maybe it was. As much as I'd hoped that everything would suddenly feel right once the acceptance letter was in my hand, I quickly realized that even success couldn't erase all the years of hurt. There was still the echo of the lies my sister had spread. The weight of my parents' absence in those pivotal moments of my life. But somehow, with that letter in my inbox, I felt like I'd finally crossed a threshold. Not just into a new chapter, but into a version of myself that I could be proud of, someone who had made it without any of the things I used to think I needed: validation, approval, forgiveness from everyone who had failed me. The next few weeks were a blur. I was moving forward in ways I hadn't imagined. I had a plan now. A future. No more scraping by, no more struggling to survive. I was about to thrive. But that didn't mean everything was smooth sailing. One afternoon, as I was making my way to the bookstore, I ran into Caroline on the street. She was walking toward me, and for a moment I almost turned to avoid her. I wasn't sure if I was ready to talk to her about what had happened or, honestly, what was still happening between us. The scars didn't vanish overnight, but she saw me before I could make a choice. "Hey," she called out, waving. I stopped half-heartedly. "Hey." She came up to me, shifting her weight nervously from one foot to the other. "I heard about the scholarship. That's huge, by the way. I just wanted to say, well, I'm proud of you. You really deserve it." I raised an eyebrow, not sure how to react. "Thanks, I guess." Then she took a deep breath and, to my surprise, said, "I need to talk to you. I know you don't owe me anything, but I want to say something." The last thing I wanted was another emotional conversation, especially not with her. "Okay, what is it?" I said, trying to keep the irritation out of my voice. She hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I've been thinking a lot lately about the mess I made. About how I made it. And I've come to realize that I never really apologized for how badly I treated you. For everything I did to make you feel like you weren't enough." I bit my lip, unsure how to process this. Was this real? I was jealous. And I was scared. I felt like I couldn't measure up to the idea of perfection everyone expected from me, so I tried to tear you down to make myself feel better. But I see now how wrong that was. I've been working on myself, going to therapy, trying to get better, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to make up for the things I did. I just want you to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of it. I blinked, surprised by the weight of her words. Caroline had never apologized like this before, not genuinely, not without trying to deflect blame or turn it into something that was my fault. This was different. "I don't need you to fix everything," I said slowly. "I don't need you to make it all go away. I just need you to be honest with me from now on." She nodded, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "I can do that. I'll do that." There was a brief pause, then Caroline spoke again, her voice quieter this time. "I don't expect us to be close again. I know things have changed. I just wanted to tell you that I see you now. And I'm proud of you too." And for the first time in years, I believed her. Later that night, after everything settled, I sat down in front of my computer to begin looking at how to organize my life for the next few months: college applications, moving plans, new routines. But as I stared at the screen, I realized something else. The moment I'd been waiting for, the moment I thought I'd feel whole again, that I'd have all the answers, wasn't going to happen in one clean swoop. It was never going to come from anyone else's apology, anyone else's forgiveness, or even from a scholarship letter. It was going to come from me, and me alone. I had built this life piece by piece, despite everything that had happened. I'd gone from being the girl everyone thought was a failure to someone who had something real to offer. And that meant everything. It was strange, in a way, to look at my life and realize how far I'd come. When I thought about the person I was just a few years ago, I barely recognized her. The girl who had been kicked out, discarded by my own family, made to feel like I was worth less than nothing. That version of me seemed like a distant memory now, a shadow that no longer had the power to haunt me. I spent the next few months making plans for the future, choosing courses, figuring out dorm life, setting new goals. It was a lot, but I found myself energized in a way I hadn't been before. Every decision I made felt like I was stepping into the life I'd always dreamed of but never thought was possible. In the meantime, Caroline kept her distance. She continued to work on herself, and while we weren't exactly close, I could tell she was making progress. I didn't reach out much. I didn't feel the need to. I had learned the hard way that I couldn't fix her, and it wasn't my responsibility to do so. If she wanted a relationship, she had to be the one to put in the effort just like I had. One afternoon, I received another message from her. This time, it wasn't about apologies or catching up. It was about something else. She was moving out of town. I know we don't talk much anymore, but I wanted to let you know that I've decided to transfer to a college in another state. I think it's time for me to take a step away from everything here and just start fresh. I'm doing it for me. I stared at the message for a while, unsure of what to feel. A part of me wanted to be upset. Was she really leaving without a proper goodbye? But the other part of me, the part that had been hurt so deeply by her, that part just felt numb. Maybe it was better this way. She was doing what she thought was best for her, and that was something I couldn't argue with anymore. A week later, I walked into the bookstore on a Tuesday morning, feeling the weight of everything still ahead of me. Applications, decisions, the emotional baggage I hadn't quite fully unpacked. As I set my bag down behind the counter, the door opened with a familiar chime. I looked up to see my mom standing there, holding a coffee cup, looking a little more put together than I'd ever seen her. "Hey," she said, her eyes scanning the store before landing on me. "Got a minute?" I smiled, a little surprised to see her here. "For you? Always." She slid into one of the chairs at the small table by the window, her expression serious, but not in a bad way. "I wanted to let you know I've made some decisions," she began, pausing to take a sip of her coffee. "I'm moving back to my family's house in the next few months. It's time for me to make some changes, too. It's not about fixing the past, but I want to do better. By you, by me, by us." I looked at her, surprised, but this time, the words felt different. I didn't feel the sharp pang of anger or resentment I would have felt a year ago. Instead, I felt a kind of acceptance. This wasn't perfect, but nothing ever would be. "I'm glad," I said softly, my voice steady. "I'm really glad." She smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I know I've got a long way to go, but I'm trying, okay?" I nodded, holding her gaze. "I know you are." As she stood up to leave, she reached out to pull me into a hug. I didn't hesitate, wrapping my arms around her. It wasn't everything, but it was a start. And I realized, standing there in that small bookstore, that the future I'd once feared was now wide open. The years of pain and uncertainty, they didn't define me anymore. The success I had worked so hard for, the life I was building, that was what would define me from here on out. I had everything I needed to move forward. The past couldn't hold me back. Not anymore. As the door closed behind my mom, I turned back to the counter and grabbed my phone. I had an email to respond to, a scholarship acceptance to confirm, a new chapter to begin, and I couldn't wait to see where it would take me. For the first time in years, I felt like I was finally free.